Tonight on The Best Times, we expose the scams of the con artists that prey on older victims. You'll discover how the arts can keep you young. And we'll tell you how to recognize the warning signs of strokes. Funding for The Best Times is provided by the Plow Foundation, striving to do the greatest good by helping the greatest number of people since 1964. Additional funding is provided by the members of WKNO. Thank you. Hello, I'm Chris Hardaway. Welcome to this edition of The Best Times, a series that looks at life after 50. In 2012, the Federal Trade Commission reported that 26% of all fraud and scam complaints to the agency were from victims aged 60 and older, the most of any age group. It's estimated that the annual financial cost of scams is between $40 and $50 billion. Now, we've all been tempted by offers that seem too good to be true. Unfortunately, the weakness of human nature opens the door for scammers and con artists. So the next time you get an email from a Nigerian prince offering to share his fortune with you, don't believe it and don't get scammed. Let's begin by talking about some of the most prominent scams that you've seen in the Memphis Mid-South area.
The number one most prominent scam by a large margin that we've seen last year and continue to see is what we call the IRS imposter scam. People get a call from someone who claims he's with the IRS, may quote a name, may quote a badge number. The phone may have a 202, which is Washington, D.C. area code on the caller ID, because they can spoof that, make the phone number look like any number they want. And they tell the person they're calling, you're delinquent on your taxes, and if you don't make immediate payment arrangements, someone's going to be knocking on your door to arrest you. The vast majority of people know better, but even those of us who pay our taxes on time get a little nervous when we hear the IRS, and enough people fall for it that the IRS continues to put out alerts and alerts. We continue to put out alerts and alerts, warning people not to fall for it, but they do. And one study found that seniors tend to be more vulnerable to imposter scams that involve government agencies, just because I guess we tend to have more respect and fear, if you will, I guess, about the government than perhaps younger people do.
Now the tax scam, is it only happening during tax season, or can you see it any time?
It happens all year round. There are a number of IRS scams, but this imposter scam where they get the phone call happens year round.
And it's mostly phone calls?
Mostly phone calls, or they may leave a message if you're not at home. The IRS ran some numbers and said that in the past 2 years, they know of at least 5,000 victims who lost at least $26 million. And those numbers are low because not everybody reports that they've been a victim.
Well, because they don't want to admit to being a victim now, do they?
Correct.
And that is that and fear is what the scammers take advantage of.
And that is a particular problem with seniors, because seniors are not only embarrassed, but they worry that maybe I'll lose some of my independence if my kids or caregivers find out that I'm vulnerable to scams.
You know, let's talk about that, because that's a particular area of the financial scam, a particular part of elder abuse in this country, where someone takes financial advantage. Someone could be a family member, could be, someone who is just a scammer, an unknown person. But that's a serious problem.
A recent study found that almost 20% of seniors have been the victim of a scam. Obviously, many more or financial fraud. Many more have been targeted, but almost 20% have been victimized. And some of the signs that relatives need to look for. If they say, I'm getting phone calls that I've won money, or emails, or whatever the method of communication is. If there's unexplained frequent withdrawals from their checking account, that means they're sending money someplace. May not always be big bucks, maybe little amounts that add up over time. If they seem confused about their financial affairs, they don't have money that they should have, they're confused about their bills, not able to pay their bills. If they say, the more sophisticated kinds of fraud, they say, I'm being pressured to change my will, and they're not exactly sure why.
So to avoid that, it's just a matter of being attentive.
Yeah, caregivers, kids, other caregivers, want to get involved in their parents' or other senior relatives' affairs. Try not to do it in a threatening and intrusive manner, but offer to help with their bills. Then you can get a good idea of where the money's going. Look at their mail when it's coming in, see what sort of offers, unsolicited, fraudulent offers they may be getting. Good idea to put their phone numbers on the National Do Not Call list, which will cut out some of the, not the out and out scams, but at least will cut out some of the phone calls that may tempt them to give out money in situations in which they shouldn't be giving out money.
Let's talk about the online dating scams.
Yeah.
Now, this may not sound like it would affect our senior population, but you say it does.
The most vulnerable group are older women, people of all ages, and men and women fall for it, but the most vulnerable group are older women, generally widowed, divorced, or disabled, who meet somebody on often one of the legitimate websites, legitimate online dating websites, but they meet somebody, and he, in this case, if it's a woman, and the other person is a man, often claims to be in the military overseas. Will attach a picture of this very handsome military man in his uniform, which they've stolen from somewhere on the internet. It's a picture of a legitimate person. But you'll find this person, they'll start a conversation, get to know each other online. Oftentimes he'll say, I'm going to retire in the near future. I'll come back to the States and I'll move to the town that you're in, and our relationship will get ever closer and we'll get married. And then once a rapport has been developed, then he'll go in for the kill. And the kill will be, I need some travel money, or I'm going to start a business. And will you wire me some money to help me start the business? There was a case here in Memphis earlier this year. A woman got drawn into one of those webs and ended up sending a fellow $75,000.
Unbelievable, isn't
Another fellow said he was a colonel in the Air Force. Sent her a picture of himself in uniform. By the time they did catch him, by the time they caught him, he was a truck driver in Georgia.
And again, we've been talking about a lot of scams here, and the focus we've been, of course, is on seniors. But scammers,
that's right,
they don't care. They're not age conscious. It doesn't matter to them who they're going to take their money from.
Yeah.
But what makes the senior population more vulnerable?
Depending on the type of scam, it may be so simple that if it's a telemarketing scam, they're home to take the call where some other folks may be at work. If it's a door-to-door home improvement scam, we continue to see those. They're home to open the door. Okay? And in both cases, they're more trusting than the younger people are. We grew up at a time when you didn't need to worry about somebody knocking on the door being a crook, or picking up the phone and there's a crook there. They tend to be lonely. It could be. In some cases are lonely, and so they're susceptible to a friendly voice, or susceptible to a pitch. They may be financially, actually at both ends of the scale. They may be financially strained, living on a fixed income, so they're vulnerable to bogus opportunities to save money on drugs, or bogus investment opportunities. At the other end of the scale, they may have money, they may own their homes, and that makes them vulnerable to mortgage-related scams, for example.
Let's talk about how we protect ourselves. This is a connected world these days, a digital world. We're all connected one way or another through the internet, through our phones, etc., and the robocalls.
Yeah.
How do we protect ourselves against these scams?
Well, of course, you can't prevent them altogether. But there are things that you can do. First, we talked earlier, get your phone number on the do not call list, unless you like to get these telemarketing calls. But if you want to cut down on some of that won't prevent the out and out scammers, but we'll cut down some of the calls that's a real product, but it's perhaps deceptive or not in your best interest. Don't respond to somebody who knocks on your door and wants to repair your driveway or remove sticks from your roof or that sort of thing. Don't respond to unsolicited text messages, and they come all ways. Text messages, emails, phone calls. Don't provide personal financial credit card information in response to unsolicited calls. If you get these phishing emails, don't even click on links or don't download attachments, because those will download malware to your computer. And just don't be pressured into making an immediate decision. Check out any offers. Certainly check them out with the Better Business Bureau.
And I guess have a healthy dose of skepticism about it.
And isn't it a shame that that's the environment that we live in? But you know, these crooks are pros. So many, they're predominantly, setting aside the home improvement knock on your door kind of scam, many of the internet scams are overseas crime rings. And they're pros. And boy, if you talk to them, and sometimes you think, well, I'm going to outsmart them, I'm going to give them a piece of my mind, I'm going to tell them they're trying to victimize me and whatever, and they're just smooth, and they may turn it around on you and convince you to do whatever they want you to do. When you get these robocalls, of course, very often they say punch 1 to find out about the great offer, punch 2 to get taken off our list. Don't ever punch 2, because you don't get taken off the list. In many cases, these are automated robo-dialers that are just dialing random numbers, and that at least confirms to the crooks that they hit a real number, and you'll just get more phone calls.
Now, talk about the new scam tracker tool that you have on your website.
It's a tool that we, Better Business Bureaus nationwide, introduced probably 2 or 3 months ago. It's an online, interactive, free tool. If you come to our website, bbb.org, there'll be a button that you can click on that says Scam Tracker. And what you'll see immediately is what's called a heat map of the United States that shows where scams are being reported. You can drill down and actually get to the Memphis area or whatever town around here that you're in, and do one of 2 things. If you just want to kind of find out what sort of scams are being reported in your area, you'll see the IRS scam. A lot of IRS scams being reported, as I mentioned earlier. But you can find out what kind of scams are being reported. But more importantly, we want you to let us know if you've been targeted by a scam. You don't necessarily have had to fall for it, but we want to know if you've been targeted, and it'll walk you through a process to say, and we keep your information confidential, but says, here's the kind of scam, here's what they said to me, here's how much money they wanted. If I lost money, here's how much. And so far, about 16% of the reports we're seeing, people have lost money. So we'll get that information, and then we'll use it, the Better Business Bureau, to alert the media and have the media put out alerts to help people not fall for it. And then the information is also being shared on a national basis with law enforcement authorities so that they can detect patterns and they can go and try to shut these outfits down.
Randy, thank you for being on The Best Times and helping our viewers keep their money.
I appreciate it.
If you have more questions or need to report a possible scam, contact the local Better Business Bureau or visit one of these websites for more information. On the Better Business Bureau's website, you'll find the Scam Tracker tool, which can alert you to the reported scams in your area. Can exposure to the arts improve the quality of life for older adults? Can listening to a 1-hour music concert result in fewer doctor visits and less medication? A study by George Washington University came to the conclusion that art has the power to change lives at every age, and that is the concept behind creative aging. On a Friday afternoon, the residents of The Point at Kirby Gate are dancing and clapping to the old-time jug band music of the Side Street Steppers. This event is one of about 750 performances at over 50 facilities that will be presented this year by Creative Aging, an 11-year-old nonprofit organization dedicated to bringing the arts to our senior communities. Meryl Klein is the executive director of Creative Aging.
The arts are terrifically important to older adults. They have the power to heal them physically, to some extent cognitively and emotionally.
I think that we definitely bring music to the audience that they remember. Even when we play, the memory units and stuff, you can see people kind of come to life when we play certain songs that were widely known in that. So it's nice to, bring them the memories of yesteryear back.
At the Gardens of Germantown, Cherry Brooks and Cal Jackson are playing tunes from the Great American Songbook to an audience made up of memory care residents and their family members.
We continue to make brain cells throughout our lives, even though it used to be thought otherwise. But we continue to, but as we get older, the triggers for creating those cells have to be more and more novel, because so much of what we've experienced has become so routine.
The music and art presented by the Creative Aging artists provides that novel activity to trigger responses in the brain. But it's not all about science. Socialization is a key element of any Creative Aging performance.
Socialization is being recognized as more and more important in maintaining emotional and cognitive health. And our arts programming enables these seniors to socialize, whether it's through the workshops we do where they're interacting and helping each other, or it's simply the social and novel engagement of a musical performance.
You can see the socialization at work at this glass-blowing workshop at Plow Towers. Teresa White gives instruction to a group of about a dozen residents in the craft of making decorative glass refrigerator magnets. She teaches them how to score the glass, break it, and cold set the pieces. At the end of the hour-long workshop, Teresa will collect the pieces, fire them in her kiln, and return the finished artwork to the workshop participants. Meryl points out that socialization activities like this workshop have tangible benefits for the participants.
They are less likely to be depressed, self-reported depression. They have one fewer doctor's visit a year. They're on average taking one fewer pharmaceutical.
Breeze Kayol and his band New Orleans are entertaining the audience at Theater Memphis. This is Creative Aging's latest endeavor, the Senior Arts Series.
It's a new effort that we're putting forth. In the past, we've always sent artists out to residential communities, senior centers and likes, but we've never served independent seniors. So this program is designed for that. We're doing a series of 5 performances throughout the year, all at Theater Memphis. And in each instance, we have a Creative Aging artist as well as an artist from the community. In today's performance, we've got Breeze Kayol and his band New Orleans. And then we have the senior theater students from Hutchison School doing recollections of New Orleans and the music and the Mardi Gras and the food. So these are all marvelous performances, and in each one, our artists and the community artists sort of weave their work together.
This is the first year of the Senior Arts Series, and Meryl is hoping that the combination of an enthusiastic response from the audience and the generosity of the sponsors will enable the series to continue.
The soul of Memphis is music. And these people who have grown up here or have lived here for decades, they feel that and they respond to it.
The musicians can see and feel that response too. Cherry Brooks tells the story of a recent performance at a memory care unit.
So when we started, Cal usually plays an instrumental. Well, he was playing one, and he just hit about 3 notes of "You Are My Sunshine," and the entire room started singing. Now, these are people who don't know their children, and they heard 3 notes, and "You Are My Sunshine" was just blasted over. Everybody in the place had chills, because that's what music is all about.
Almost 800,000 Americans will suffer a stroke this year. It is the number 5 cause of death in this country. And yet, more than a third of Americans can't identify even one of the warning signs of stroke. Can you? Knowing more about strokes can save lives, maybe yours. What is a stroke?
Stroke is a very common and devastating condition. It's the number one leading cause of permanent disability in adults in the United States and worldwide. It is caused by either disruption of the blood flow to the brain by a blood clot that blocks the brain vessel, or by leaky vessel that produces bleeding to the brain. Unfortunately, we live in southeastern United States, which is also known as stroke belt of the United States. So everyone who is born here is twice likely to experience stroke in their lifetime compared to the same ethnic, genetic make born anywhere else in the United States.
What are the types of strokes?
It's called ischemic or hemorrhagic. These are the terms. So ischemic stroke is the one where blood clot lodges in the brain vessel kind of in the wrong time and the wrong place and precludes blood flow to the brain. Or bleeding to the brain occurs, and that would be hemorrhagic stroke. And this type of stroke is usually caused by high blood pressure and the wear and tear of blood vessels, and then they break off and leak blood flow.
What is a TIA stroke?
TIA is a transient ischemic attack, or some people call it a mini stroke. I'd like to call it a warning that a bigger stroke is coming. And TIA is a transient disruption of blood flow. It is almost always due to blood clot passing through the blood vessels or some blood flow changes that causes malfunction of brain tissue. But the good news is that it is transient, and the true TIAs do not leave any damage to the brain.
What are the symptoms?
What people need to know is FAST. Abbreviation is FAST. Face, arm, speech, time. So droopiness of the face, weakness of one side of the body, speech disturbances when the person cannot get the words out right, the person slurs words or finds the wrong words to express themselves, and then time. Time is of the essence. So the first 60 minutes from these symptom onset, whether it is transient or not, the first 60 minutes will largely determine how the person spends the rest of their lives.
Who is at risk?
A combination of high blood pressure, overweight, lack of exercise, poor dietary habits, and predisposition to these events, because those things tend to run in the family. So, and these are just very few risk factors. I'm not even talking about smoking and some other obvious things.
What treatment is available?
The only medical treatment that's capable of reversing this disability is called a tissue plasminogen activator, TPA. Simple way to remember, it's clot buster. So if someone has a stroke, you need to ask, bring me to the center that gives clot busting medicine. In Tennessee, we're hoping to have the system statewide geared up like trauma. So you don't bring trauma to the nearest walk-in emergency room, you bring it to the trauma center. So equally so, we would like to have certified stroke centers and the whole state mapped out so the EMS know exactly where to bring the patient.
This truck is part of the future that's changing the outcome for stroke patients in the Mid-South. The mobile stroke unit ambulance is on the streets of Memphis. On board is a portable CAT scan capable of identifying a stroke within the vital first 60 minutes of an attack.
That technology can potentially revolutionize how soon we can treat. Because now imagine, instead of driving to the hospital, you can, at the same time as you dispatched a first responder, you tell the mobile stroke unit to drive to the place and quickly load the patient, literally in the driveway or in the parking lot, from that primary responder to the ambulance that has a CAT scan in it. And then we quickly do the scan, and we quickly draw the bloods, and we're ready to treat.
For more information about strokes, go to the website of the Stroke Association. Want more information about life after 50? Go online to watch more shows and find more resources. And send us your feedback and story ideas to besttimes@wkno.org. That's all for this edition of The Best Times. Please join us next week for more stories about life after 50. Until then, I'm Chris Hardaway. Thanks for watching. Good night. Funding for The Best Times is provided by the Plow Foundation, striving to do the greatest good by helping the greatest number of people since 1964. Additional funding is provided by the members of WKNO. Thank you.